It sounds like an effing cop that's fishing or an investigator or someone playing games. He's coming up with a lot of effing details. Those are the words of Charlie Adelson. He didn't use effing. He used the word that rhymes with ducking. And that's in a conversation with his mother about what was going on with Mr. Bumpman once they tickled the so-called wire. And it was another very fascinating day inside the courtroom in Tallahassee, Florida.
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. This is the show that consistently brings you the very best guests in all of true crime and also the best trial coverage. We are in it right now, covering Donna Adelson versus the state of Florida, gavel to gavel. And today we continued to have Pat Sanford, the FBI special agent who actually arrested Donna Adelson. He continued on the stand, but primarily we are hearing wiretaps and various sorts of conversations and exchanges between the different people involved in this murder for hire plot. Of course, it's all about Professor Dan Markel, who was murdered back on July 18th, 2014, succumbing to his injuries the next day. And the government says that the mastermind in this whole plot is actually Donna Adelson, the woman who had her headphones inverted the wrong way on her head today while listening to this testimony. I'm not sure that's a car move if she knew, and the COE will be able to bring up the photo. But without further ado, let me bring in the best guests, and the first best guest is a familiar face. This is Jared Ross. He went to FSU undergrad, FSU law school. By the way, I got lost today around here, and I ended up at FSU's kind of an area I've never seen before. Absolutely beautiful. That football stadium looks like, I don't know, something out of like a movie, which sounds a little cliche. It's an absolutely gorgeous red brick stadium, and I'm excited to watch FSU destroy Bama. Let's go Noles. We ain't rolling with the tide. Let's go Noles. So I'm excited for that. Up next, a brand new guest. The next two guests are new, and I'm excited for both of them. We've got Betsy Burgess coming to us. She is a 2005 graduate of the Florida State University Law School, and she's been a practicing litigator and trial lawyer in the civil world, defending people and companies in lawsuits for 20 years. She is a self-professed law nerd and true crime fan. She's been following this case from day one. Did you have Danny as your law professor, Betsy?
I did not. I graduated in May of 2005, which was my understanding right before he got there. So I missed out. I wish I had. Out.
But this next person, Ashley, how do I pronounce your last name? Khalife?
You're on mute, Ashley.
Got to unmute yourself there, Ash. I'll see if I can help you there. I just unmuted you. You're good.
Sorry, Khalife.
Oh, Khalife, Ashley Khalife. She graduated from FSU Law School as well. And what kind of law do you practice, Ashley? We met, by the way, we all met through Jared in the courtroom. But what kind of law do you practice?
I mostly lobby now.
Mostly lobby. There you go. But you've also
I'm a colleague of Jared's, and I'm actually also a colleague of Jared's brother.
Yeah, and you've been following the case literally from the get-go, and we're not going to really share them today, but you literally have emails that you've kept between you and Professor Markel that you have from obviously 11 plus years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, even more than that, I still have my old Gmail address that I used from law school. So I found a bunch of old emails and they just made me laugh. He had a pretty good sense of humor.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the three of you being on here. Betsy, I know, obviously, again, we met inside the courtroom 3G, the Leon County Courthouse. The last couple of days, more tedious. We're listening to all these wiretaps and things, but from a 30,000 foot bird's eye view, and you sent me a list, so don't give it all away because I'm going to go through your list, but sort of generally speaking, what is your gut feeling about what you have watched, both inside the courtroom and on Surviving the Survivor? Because I know that's where you watch it. What's your impression so far?
Well, I think the prosecution is doing a masterful job of advancing their theme, which is that Donna was the mastermind of this whole thing. Nothing happened in this family without her approval. She was obviously, they started out with the emails, and I think that was intentional because the emails really show motive, right? Not just motive, but family dynamics and the extent to which Donna was so intent on getting her child to move down to Miami with her grandbabies. And in one word she used in those emails that I thought was so powerful, and I'm glad they started out with it, it is non-negotiable, because she said in those emails, this is a non-negotiable thing. And then you've got the timeline, which they've been very good about setting out the timeline. Every piece of evidence they bring out further supports their theme. And they're giving it to them one bit at a time, a little bit more, to the point where at the end, when they're looking at it holistically, because remember, the case against Donna is a lot less clear. It's a little bit trickier than the ones they had against the other conspirators, and of course, Charlie. So I think the way they're doing it piecemeal, and I have my theories about, why they were playing the calls they were playing today, but they're sticking with that theme and building on it. It's not just the emails. It's not just the calls. It's the timeline when the calls were made. It's who was making the calls. It's the patterns. And so I think they're making a really compelling case, to the point where when the jury gets all of the evidence, which they don't have yet, it's going to, everything that happened after those emails were sent makes so much more sense, having read them and having been through them on that very first day.
Yeah, and another, by the way, huge thanks to Joe Patuto and Tim Jansen for holding down the fort today, doing the color commentary. But Ashley, to you, toward the end of the day, you see them effectively tickling the wire, because you get Donna Adelson to call Mr. Bumpman, and she's trying to emphatically say, I did not do this. But when she's done pleading, and every time she would say that, she would follow it up by saying, this is just giving me so much stress. If she was really stressed out, she'd probably be calling police or authorities. And Georgia got up there and asked Pat Sanford, did she ever call this person back? No. And did she ever call police? No. And when I looked at the jurors after those two responses, again, I just got this gut feeling that here's another point in this trial. Rob Adelson was one, but this was another kind of inflection point where I think once they heard that, they're like, all right, we're convicting this woman. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that, but what was your general impression of these jurors when you were in the courtroom?
Extremely attentive. I think it's a pretty young jury. I see a lot of men, so I hope we have a lot of dads on there who can kind of think about themselves in Dan's shoes. I was just an hour ago texting with Jared. I was at the same park that Professor Markel always took his kids to. I live in the same neighborhood, so just hits home. I saw him several days before he passed away at Premier Gym, because that's where I used to exercise too. And I knew him from, my law school life and had him as a professor. So all very surreal. But I just, if someone called me and had information about the murder of my grandchildren's father, I probably wouldn't be very nice or patient. I would probably start screaming obscenities at that person and calling 911 immediately. And so just the lack of emotion, the lack of horror, the lack of fear, frankly, if you didn't do this and you thought someone who might be responsible for the death of your grandchild's father, I think fear would be probably the first normal response. I think the lack of all of that is just very telling and very sad.
Yeah. And since you just mentioned it, that you live right near Trescott and Danny's old neighborhood, what do you make of that drive that Wendy makes the morning of the murder?
Yes. It's just a total clown show.
Yeah, but explain why. Just totally out of the way. So most of us don't know that route at all.
So I'll say I jog frequently in that area.
Well, what happened? Your audio just cut out. I'm sorry, Ashley. Let me see if I can figure. Something just happened. I don't know if your mic. See if your mic just unplugged. But while you're figuring that out, Jared. Well, something.
Is that better?
Yeah, you're back. You're back. Yep.
Okay, sorry. So, I mean, Dan's house to me is like a marker for when I get really close to Benton Road, and Truscott is a very, very long road. So it's Benton on one side, bookends it, and then Centerville on another. And when I'm on my run, I know that I'm almost about to see Benton, and I actually can see Benton from Professor Markel's old house. So it's just it's an impossibility. My guess is that that's the story that she went with for her parents' sake and for her brother's sake, so that they weren't like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you were that stupid. And then she just really had to kind of double down on it.
Yeah. Jared Ross, is there a reason that you did not introduce me to Ashley and Betsy like 3 years ago? You hogging airtime, son? Is that what's going on? How dare you?
Jared, I actually did mention, I told you I had other friends that would be great for the show. It just took them a while to warm up to the idea of getting onto the camera.
Yeah, actually, Jared and I did not know that we had Professor Markel in common. We went to his memorial service and showed up there together, and ended up sitting next to each other. And that whole experience was also very surreal.
Well, the obvious next question, and we'll let Jared stew in that for a moment for not letting me get to you guys earlier. But Ashley, just tell us what your experience was like with Dan Markel as your professor. I mean, what kind of professor was he? But more importantly, what kind of person was he? Oh, your mic just cut out again. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if it's like sensitive cable there.
Nope, still can't hear you.
It'll come. Ashley's like, oh crap. It's okay. This is SCS. People are used to it. While you're figuring that out, I'm going to let Jared. I mean, Jared, so far, I saw you in court yesterday. By the way, Jared's like, I've got a trip to Chicago, and he told me he was leaving. And then I asked him to come on the show earlier this week, and he's like, I'm in Chicago. But in my head, I'm saying, this guy told me he had a trip for 3 days, and it was last week. So this guy is avoiding me. And then I found out he had 2 separate trips to Chicago. So that's kind of crazy back to back. Jared, what was your I don't know, your feelings being in the courtroom, seeing the jurors, seeing this play out in real life? And I think, Ashley, you're back, because I just heard some. Ash, talk to me for a second. Nope, you're not back. Okay, we'll have to figure that out. But Jared, go ahead.
It's surreal every time one of these trials comes along and you sit in that courtroom, especially when they start playing the tapes and you hear the voice of someone that you know, that you went to high school with, and you hear him talking about the murder of someone that you were friends with and speaking about it in code and all this stuff. Every time one of these trials comes along, or every time anything comes up that has to do with the murder of Danny, it's just surreal. And, you know, it was painful listening to all those calls today, but it's interesting. One of the takeaways I took, and we talk about Charlie and what type of a person he was and the cockiness and the arrogance. I've never heard anybody use so many F-bombs on the phone with their mother before. Like, my mom called me a little bit ago and I talked to her for a bit, and I couldn't have even imagined using one F-bomb. And that guy is just F this, F that, F this to his mom. To me, that says a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to plead the fifth on that, Chair. But no, I understand. I hear what
no,
you're
your
saying.
Mom says it to you, Joel. That's totally different. My mom says it to me too. I don't say it back.
What a relationship that, I mean, there's so many things I could say that are probably inappropriate, but the enmeshment of their relationship, and I'm talking Charlie and Donna right now, just hearing them talk on the phone, it's like, it's uncomfortable. Like, it's almost like, I probably shouldn't say what I'm going to say, but Donna is obsessed with her son in what appears to be a very unhealthy way. But before we try to get back to Ashley, and once the COE's here, I know she'll be able to help you out, Ashley, if we can't hear you. But Betsy, to you, one of the interesting perspectives that you can bring as well is that you argued cases before the one-time judge, Jackie Fulford, who's now Donna's defense attorney, who, by the way, she wears cowboy boots. I'm not judging. I just think that's interesting. What was she like to argue before as a judge?
You know, I had good experiences with Judge Fulford. She was always prepared. She was always on time. She expected you to be on time. One interesting thing I recall is many judges, especially here in Leon County, when we have just run-of-the-mill hearings, case management conferences, things like that, we'll do them in the judges' chambers where we sit around a table. You've got opposing counsel there. You've got the judge there. You walk in, you say hi to the bailiff, you chat with everybody, and then you get down to business with the court reporters ready. With her, she liked to do them in the courtroom, even if it was just a 5-minute hearing. We went in the courtroom. She was up there on the bench, and she was just very to the point, just like she is in her cross-examination. You know, just very to the point. She doesn't like to waste time. She doesn't suffer fools. If you wanted a continuance before Judge Fulford, you were probably out of luck. If she gave you a trial date, that trial date was not going to move. And so I think she was effective. I think one thing I really appreciated about her was when we would file a motion, we would file memos in support of our motion. When we got to the hearing, you could tell that she'd read it. You know, she'd considered it. She was ready to ask questions. You know, she wasn't learning it on the fly. And so I appreciate that. I think she took the time, even if she didn't have it, to make sure she didn't waste anybody else's time.
And I, if you're uncomfortable answering this, please feel free not to. But we had Stephen Webster on. I don't know if you know Webster.
I
but
do.
Yeah. He's a great guy. He's on the witness list, by the way. But he is not the first one to tell us that that I guess when she was having issues and she was being asked to step down from the bench, there was a story created by her about having a cancer diagnosis that she didn't really have. Is that something that you heard of? Because that's pretty upsetting, pretty disturbing. I don't know if that's something you were privy to.
No, that's the first time I've ever heard that. Towards the end of her judgeship, she moved over to Wakulla County. And so I didn't have very many cases over there. So I didn't see her much. I probably only saw her when she was in Leon, which was, I think, 2 years or so. So I don't know anything about that.
Look at this. This is a Freudian slip here. It says God Bama instead of Go Bama. But I'm in Tallahassee and I'm rooting for the Noles. Go Noles. Going to be an upset. Going to be a big upset. Although Tim Jansen told me that the offensive line outweighs FSU's offensive line by probably 40 pounds per player. But we'll see. Jared, I don't know.
Not
what
accurate.
Jared said.
Not accurate.
Not accurate. There you go. Not accurate. But Ashley, do we have?
And also, Betsy
did I figure out my problem?
You figured it out because I can hear you.
So I feel like as Betsy was talking about Judge Fulford, I need to be like, I don't know the Chrome issues. I don't understand the Skypes. I don't understand.
I don't know Skype. But Ashley and Jared, you want to finish your thought? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say Betsy is doubly rooting for FSU because not only is she an FSU grad for law, she's an Auburn grad for undergrad. So,
there you go.
Now, go.
Yeah.
War Eagle.
Ashley, now you're disappearing. I have a feeling your kid walk. Yeah. Kids and dogs are allowed on this show as we once again go off the rails. What you wish for. Yeah, but Ashley, talk to us about Dan Markel, the person, Dan Markel, the professor. I mean, was he a tough professor?
He was. He was, very into intellectual rigor. I would say he was, like the closed book exam. And if you've been to law school, you know what that means. He wasn't going to make it easy on you. He wanted everyone focused. If people came in the room late, that was a big no-no. In fact, he just kind of closed the door because I think he wanted everyone to know that this is how life was going to be. You can't just come late to things and expect to always get in. He used humor, I would say, in enforcing those guidelines. I have a lot of funny, directives from him about how a quizzy was going to be handled, or just bathroom breaks for exams, which I just kind of find entertaining because I feel like Judge Everett is making the same jokes somewhere. Hopefully Professor Markel is finding that humorous. But he would also really kind of go out of his way. I have an email where I'd asked him to sit and help a moot court team I was on prepare, and he did that. He didn't have to. Other friends told me, he would make time to make lunch with that or eat lunch with them if they were interested in crim. So a nice guy. And then just cared about his job, cared about his profession, cared about his students, but also, making them better. And I would see him in kind of my post law school career at the Premier Gym. He was usually on the cardio equipment across from me. So we kind of give each other the this, and, from all appearances, he was just living a very disciplined, well-rounded, life. And it's just very terrible that was robbed from him.
Yeah, and I don't mean to have Ashley hog up some time, but I think this is important. Now, do you remember where you were the day that you got word that he had been killed, and what your initial reaction was? Thank you to Larry, by the way.
I do. Well, no one really understood why this neighborhood, because I did not live in this neighborhood at the time, but I had a lot of friends who did, and we were planning on going to a friend's house. And so a lot of the roads were blocked off, and there was just a lot of like, was there an armed robbery? Was there this? Was there that? Just a lot of speculation, as you would imagine, in a neighborhood that's usually a pretty family-friendly, nice neighborhood. And then I heard it was him, I think that night or the next morning, and just shocking. But, I'm still close with a lot of people that were in my law school class. And I found another email from the Monday after, when TPD had put out a statement that, this was a homicide and they were treating it as a homicide. And I had forwarded it to several of my girlfriends who I'm still very close with. And every single one of them was like, oh my gosh, it had to be her. There's no other way. Like, there's no other explanation for him. And that's why, I think did you know at that point kind of the contentiousness of the divorce? Is that what you guys said? I didn't have a lot of information about it, but I had kind of heard, Tallahassee is not that big. And I had heard that they were divorced. Yeah. But I wasn't in the weeds of the drama, but crazy.
Yeah. And Jared,
and so then they announced the memorial service just a couple days later. And I think when people lose someone so traumatically and so unexpectedly, it's kind of incumbent upon the rest of us to make sure that there's a full house, right? And so I'm walking up and Jared's walking up, and we're both looking at each other saying, what are you doing here? And then we got a seat, and it was just painful.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, the irony of the Adelsons being stuck in Tallahassee, the city they hated. I absolutely love this. Like, I kind of want to move here. Jared, I'm gonna have you. My wife's coming up, I think, this weekend, so I might have, and Ashley and Betsy, I might have you try to convince my wife. I can't take. I just, well, I don't know. Miami can get on my nerves at times, mainly because I'm $500 million poorer than the next person in net worth. So that kind of
it's a great town.
Miami or Tallahassee? Tallahassee.
Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Great place to raise kids.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm still a kid. But Jared, I think I've asked you, and then we're gonna get into the details. And by the way, Betsy sent me some amazing bullet points I'm going to go through about her thoughts on Wendy. But I'm teasing that out, so you guys stick around to watch this. By the way, if you appreciate the content, you're not going to find a lawyer who went to two lawyers who had Danny Markel as a professor, and then a third who argued before Judge Jackie Fulford. So stick around and you get some cool information here. But Jared, I know I've asked you in the past, but how did you find out about the passing of Professor Markel, and your immediate thought? I mean, you just heard Ashley say that they thought it was Wendy that was behind it.
Yeah, I will never forget it. It's kind of ingrained in my mind, and I've told the story before. At the time, my wife was 9+ months pregnant with our now 11-year-old son, and so I would check in quite a bit. Well, I got back to my office from lunch, and I called her, and we were on the phone, and I just happened to see on the Tallahassee Democrat website that there was a shooting on Trescott. And I said to my wife, did you see that there was a shooting on Trescott? That's where Danny and Wendy lived when they were married. And I didn't know that Danny was still living on Trescott at the time. So it was just kind of like a, whoa, that hits close to home kind of moment. The next morning, my daughter was 3 at the time. And like I said, my wife was very pregnant. So I was letting her sleep in and I was taking care of our daughter. And I happened to get on Facebook and I saw a friend of ours post on Facebook a long, like, memorial kind of post about, I can't believe you're gone, Danny. You were such a great person. And I was in shock. I was like, holy cow, it was Danny. So I got up and I went into our bedroom and, I made the choice to wake my wife against my better judgment at that time. But I woke her up and I said, it was Danny. And she just looked at me and said, what? And I said, it was Danny who was shot on Trescott. And she just rolled over to, kind of looked up at me and she was like, it was the family. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, Wendy's family. It was a hit, no doubt. Now, of course, I've been at that point, I've been friends with Wendy for 20 years. She was one of the first person that I had met when I moved to Florida. I'm like, there's just no way. I'm like, that, no chance. You want to give a friend the benefit of the doubt. And well, we've come, here now 11 years later to find out her initial instincts and much like Ashley and her friend's initial instincts, absolutely correct.
Well, and we were sitting next to each other at the memorial service and she walked in late. Sorry, I have another child knocking at my door.
No worries. Don't worry about
it. She kind of walked in late. We were already seated and she came and we were both like, that's kind of odd. Like, I figured she was already in the front. We just like kind of couldn't see her. And then Jared was like, none of her family's here. And I didn't know her family, obviously. I knew who she was from the law school. And he's like elbowing me. He's like, none of her family is here. Actually, none of her family. I'm like, that's weird. What? I don't know what's going on. This is very strange.
Yeah. I mean, that's super bizarre. And fast forward to today, and Donna, who's on trial for her life, has no family there except for her husband, who is just kind of clinging on to whatever he's clinging on to. But
well, she's had family there just for other reasons.
It's a good point, Jared. Very good point. And I was just going to get to that. So, Betsy, I mean, without a doubt, I think the star witness for the government so far, and it's not even close, was Rob Adelson. What did you think? I mean, we'd never seen him before. I'd seen pictures of him. People say he looks a little like Adrian Brody, which I can't, argue against necessarily. But he got up there, just an absolute sweetheart of a guy. You can tell he has the biggest heart. He's obviously the anomaly in this family. But what did you take away from his testimony?
Well, I think his testimony clearly established a couple things. Number one, it was kind of impeachment to what Wendy said, right? So Wendy said, and Jackie asked her, she was selfless, right? Your mom was a great mom. Everybody loved her. She radiated positivity. Yes, 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 yes. And then you've got the juxtaposition of Rob, who comes on right after, who had derived no benefit at all from this horrible event that happened. And what does he say? He says, directly in line with the state's theme, he says, look, she could be a good mom, but she, if you didn't do what she wanted you to do, there were repercussions. And things weren't good for you in that household if you didn't follow along with what Donna wanted to do. And I think that's an important piece of the conspiracy, because they've got to get this jury to understand that Charlie Adelson, yes, he did this, but he didn't care enough about the relocation to do it by himself. He was doing it to please his mother. They were doing this together. She was the mastermind. Charlie kind of fancies himself as the family fixer, the hero of the family. And then you've got Wendy, who everybody is micromanaging. So this was about Donna and Charlie figuring out the best thing for Wendy and doing it, executing it. That's the picture they're painting. And I think Rob really helped them paint that picture with astounding vibrancy, because when you put a witness on the stand and there's obvious emotion there, they don't want to be there. His voice was trembling. His mother was there. There were objections. He had to wait. It was just, this man was miserable. He did not want to be there. But what did he do? He got up there and he told the truth. And I think the jury received it very well. And another thing, the second thing it did is it proved there was a rift between Rob and Charlie. I think the picture that's starting to come out is maybe Rob, he started out as the golden child, became an MD, married. I know he's had a couple marriages, but his first marriage was the one Donna wanted him to be in, which of course none of that was brought out, but we know that from our, review of the case. And maybe there was somewhat of a middle child syndrome. And because in today's transcript readings, he says ugly things about Rob. And this was years before, at least a year before Rob stopped talking to Donna and Harvey. So you wonder what the dynamic is there. But I think Charlie was always trying to get his mother's approval, trying to take care of everybody. And this is shown over and over again in the words he uses about his family. He says, if they come F with my family, it's going to be, some effing whatever. Like, he used the words, but like the intent was there that, listen, this guy was going to protect his mom. He's going to protect his family. And I think with all of that coming out today, it just fits. It's just more pieces of the puzzle fitting together to explain how this could happen, even though they don't have, that smoking gun email or communication where Donna, admits to doing everything. But the jury's going to have to put it all together, and that's what the prosecution is giving them, the details and the evidence they need to put all of those pieces together until it makes sense.
Yeah, we'll get back to Charlie. I mean, he's like insufferable. Just listening to that guy drone on. Someone said they should blast those interviews in like on death row in different prisons just to torture the prisoners. But like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed had it better than people having to listen to Charlie all day long. But let me bring this up. This is a question that everyone's got here. And Ashley, I'll toss this to you. Carl Rosa, help me understand, and I can have Jared and Betsy weigh in on this as well. I see, by the way, my iPad just went out. So if you see me looking at my phone, I am not texting. I'm looking at some of my notes that I took. Help me understand. I see the direct connect. He's so obnoxious. He looks at his phone during the show. Help me understand. I see the direct connection from Charlie Katie. It's clear that Donna is guilty, but does the evidence directly connect her? And Ashley, I mean, that's a question that everyone is asking. It's something that Phil Markel has said to me. He's like, yeah, I mean, there's all this stuff, but are they going to actually believe that she is the mastermind? And especially once she gets up there and takes a stand, she's going to deny. So your answer to this, I guess, complex question.
Well, this is the conspiracy, and I'm going to go ahead and read from my criminal law outline from my 1L year that I took straight Dan Markel notes right now. Criminal conspiracy is an intent to combine with others to pursue an illegal objective. And so I certainly think that we don't have her at the scene. We don't have her there, but they are communicating in code. They're using the same code throughout the entire train car conspiracy. We have a lot of odd behavior. We have her saying things about the crime before she even knew from the police that there was a crime. I think that there's probably a lot that the prosecution also has that cannot introduce at this time because it hasn't either been authenticated or because it would be hearsay. So I think there's a lot more that we don't know. I think we do have enough for Wendy, but we certainly have enough for Donna for that illegal intent to do something with other people.
Yeah, and Betsy, I'm going to have you take a stab at this as well. The same thing. I see the direct connection, Charlie Katie. It's clear Donna is guilty, but does the evidence directly connect her? Your response?
Yeah, I think this is a weakness in their case, the direct evidence. But if you listen to the voir dire part of this trial, what you got to do when you've got a bad fact is get out in front of it. And you start talking about it at the beginning. And so what Georgia did is she kind of brought that up when she was selecting a jury. She said, do you understand what a conspiracy is? And she gave them an example. The person shoots somebody else, and then another person walks up and says, oh, it happened just like we planned. Like, we don't normally have that kind of evidence in these types of cases, or really any kind of case. So it is highly circumstantial case, but that's why she's weaving in all of these family dynamics, and showing the emails, and not just the content of those emails, the length of those emails, pages and pages of ranting. She couldn't get over it. She couldn't get past it. And again, then you think, well, Rob's testimony was that Charlie likes jet skis. Charlie likes to party. Charlie, he wasn't interested in Wendy's love life that much. And then you've got this extreme event that happened, and it's clear what happened, but who really cared enough to make it happen? And so I think, when you're on a jury, you got to leave a lot of things at the door: bias, prejudice, preconceived notions. But one thing you don't have to leave at the door is your common sense. And so, she's making a common sense argument to this jury, piece by piece. And, at the end of the trial, the beauty of the closing statement is she'll get to take all of these hours of calls and pages of emails and synthesize it and show the jury exactly how it all makes sense. And so I think a very damning piece of evidence is, Rob's testimony about the phone call after the arrests. Donna didn't want to talk about it. Well, that's because Donna knew what was going on. And I think Rob's testimony was powerful because he knew what was going on. And that was the last time he talked to his mother. So, the evidence is there. Is there to Ashley's point, is there, a written statement or confession or something that we can really point to and say, yep, she knew, there she said it? No, but at the end of the day, the common sense conclusion is that she was involved.
Yeah, 100%. And, I've always heard that circumstantial evidence, direct evidence is likely better, but circumstantial evidence is certainly very strong. The May Angelides, if I'm pronouncing that right. Lest you think we are not a global phenomenon, she is watching in Western Australia, up all night, watching STS. Just tell your boss that you're watching STS. They will let you go home, I'm sure. Jared, one of the things that is literally driving me insane, and I know this is driving Phil Markel crazy too, rightfully so, is that Jackie keeps referring to Dan as Danny, which is unkosher, by the way, from what I understand about, and you'll know better than me. Attorneys are not supposed to refer to people by their first name. They're supposed to have proper, Professor Markel. It's absolutely driving me crazy. I think something should be said to Judge Everett, through Georgia. Just having known him personally, and you call him Danny, does it rub you the wrong way to hear Jackie Fulford, who did not know him, using that name, appropriating that nickname of his, while the whole family was calling him Jibbers, which is derogatory? Does it rub you the wrong way to hear her saying that?
It does, especially the way she says it. I don't know if it's the tone of her voice, if it's on purpose, or it's just who she is. But every time she says it, it sounds like she's saying it in a derogatory manner. And, Danny was Danny to his friends, not to everybody. You've heard Ashley calls him Professor Markel.
The first time I've ever heard him called Danny was like starting with this whole murder trial. I've only heard Professor Markel or Dan. That is the only thing I ever heard until this whole situation.
Yeah. Nobody outside of his friends and family referred to him as Danny. And even Ruth has said that. Ruth calls him Dan because he was trying to, I think, get away from like little boy Danny and be Dan in his professional life. And it's just, I always knew him as Danny. I feel it's very disrespectful to the family to hear her call him Danny. And I wish she would just like you hear Georgia call him Professor Markel, just call him Professor Markel or Mr. Markel. Don't try and connect. First of all, it's not her job as the defense attorney to try and humanize Danny. It's her job to try and humanize the evil woman that is sitting at her defense table. And she's not doing a very good job at that.
Yeah. Ashley, one of the things I wanted to follow up, you hear so often about how smart Professor Markel was. I mean, was he, in your opinion, sort of a level or two above the, and it's not to, to diminish the other professors, but was he this real rising legal scholar that had a sort of an intellect that was a level above the others?
Yeah, he was very into his scholarship, really into his research. And, I feel kind of bad now as a 40-something-year-old thinking about how I had, such a smart person in front of me teaching me crim law. And I honestly, in his murder trial, I'm learning more about it than probably I ever did there. But he was really into his research about different theories of punishment. And I encourage people to go find some of the articles that he's written because they're actually really, really interesting. And he was, really, really into his research, very into kind of being a rigorous teacher. But his research is interesting because, there's different theories on how you punish people to kind of create a society where people don't commit crimes and where, you have kind of the moral good being preserved. And he was really into the retributivist theory of punishment or of just the criminal justice system in general. And his whole theory was that, in a democracy where laws are passed in a democratic society, you punish people because when someone violates one of those laws, it's basically them asserting some type of moral superiority over everyone else in the society. And for you to have an ordered society, you can't allow that. And so how do you make punishment that makes people not want to assert moral superiority over someone else? And I mean, that's exactly what's happened in this case. I mean, they thought they were better than him, knew more, smarter, which we're all learning that certainly was not. But just someone who devoted his life to getting justice right and devoted all of his scholarship to how to make justice more perfect and more perfectly kind of fit the societal goals that probably we all share is just the irony of all ironies and just so tragic.
Yeah. Ashley, by the way, since you mentioned it, I would never ask a woman her age, but you said 40s, and that just can't help but think of Charlie Adelson on a Wire
Oh yeah, no,
conversation. Charlie would
I wouldn't
never
have to worry
date
about
you
him.
because he says he would never date even a 37-year-old Victoria's Secret model because that is just way too old for him. He's sort of a disgusting misogynist. That's not really here nor there, but it certainly got the attention of some jurors. I mean, what are you thinking when he's saying these like disgusting, outrageous things? I can tell you the jurors look pretty perturbed by him, and that's an understatement.
So I'll tell you, Jared and I have been following this case literally since we showed up at the memorial service. So I think I'm just totally desensitized to all of it at this point. I think that's just it.
So you have no plans to fly to South Dakota to try to visit Charlie and enamor yourself to him. That's not your game plan.
No.
Probably not. Okay.
No.
Look at this super chat here from Marcia Petersburg. Ashley should share her Danny emails with the Markels. I bet they would love them. I'm sure they would. Listen, by the way, I was talking to Shelly, and I never met Dan, but Shelly is one of the smartest people you're ever going to meet. She's an attorney who does not work in law anymore. But she is, I mean, if Dan's anything like her, Dan was obviously incredibly smart. And her IQ is just absolutely off the charts. But have you thought about letting the Markels see some of these
I've talked to them
emails?
at some past trials. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share whatever would make them happy for sure. I know Jared and I have talked to them in some of the previous trials, and I think, they always like to hear stories about their son and their brother, obviously, as would be expected.
Yeah. Bill Davis, he is a frequent person in the chat. Love having him. Jared, to you, I haven't read this yet, so let's hope it's appropriate. One thing that I think the prosecution has done brilliantly is illustrate the extent of Donna's desperation over the relocation of Wendy, which is a catalyst for this conspiracy to happen. Your thoughts on that, Jared? I mean, more than anything, she wanted those kids back in South Florida.
Yeah, and I think Betsy touched on that earlier, that Georgia and Sarah Catherine have done a brilliant job of showing where Donna fits into this conspiracy. And it all starts with the relocation to South Florida being denied was a non-starter for Donna. And she wasn't going to take no for an answer. And the more and more you think about what was her only option after it was decided with prejudice that they were not going to reconsider Wendy being able to move down to South Florida, that's when she set the wheels in motion to do the only thing she could do. And as the bump man said, take care of her problem up north.
Appreciate this from Ingrid. Got Sweden in the house now. And you've got we're going to answer this a little later. They're going to arrest Harvey and Wendy. We'll get to that. The COE pulled some stuff, and I always forget after during the day, I'm like, you got to pull stuff. And then I forget that she has. So not exactly sure what this is, but we're going to watch this together. It's obviously whatever happened today.
Well, I don't. That's the problem. I'm telling you, it's not me. It's not me.
Okay, so this is when Donna falls for the bump and is now calling Mr. Bumpman and trying to convince him that it wasn't her. Now, this might sound like a confession or like a plea of innocence here. But if you listen, the reason she's saying it's not her is because the amount of anxiety that she is experiencing over this. And after this exchange, Georgia gets up there and says, does she ever call this person back? No. Does she ever call police? No. If you're this worried, wouldn't you call police? So that's a little background. Here we go.
I've had a year of aggravation, a year and a half of aggravation over this. My daughter, my grandchildren. It is not me. And when I asked my friends, what do they think? They said, well, this person needs to get a description of you because of what you look like. Or it's not me. I don't know who caused this. It wasn't me. I mean, I don't know.
I'll tell you, just like that day when I talked to you, this is not going away. This is not going to go away because Papa told me everything. He wasn't being taken care of. He needed the 5K. Send 5K. That's all we were asking for. Don't do that.
I don't know who Sato is. You don't understand.
We know you know who Sato is, but you know who Katie is, and you know the concept.
I'm going to hold it right there. Betsy, no questions, just your thoughts on this exchange here.
Well, what I'm hearing is not a plea of innocence so much as a please leave me alone and stop doing this because you're stressing me out and I can't handle it anymore. Like, it's almost as though she doth protest too much. She's saying she's innocent. She's innocent of what? He never really accused her of anything specific other than, hey, I know you're involved and you guys owe some money up in to take care of my brother up in the north, but he doesn't really accuse her of anything specific. So it just seems a little bit overkill. I think what she wanted to do was just kind of convince this guy that, look, leave her alone, leave her family alone. I can't take it anymore. I mean, you could hear the desperation in her voice. She's cracking is what's happening. Yeah. She's cracking.
Yeah, and by the way, this comment from Nancy pretty much sums it up. Sorry that Dan's death was aggravating for you, Donna. And then she uses the B word, which I won't use because it's inappropriate for me to use it. But you get the idea. Why no earphones needed here? Actually, that's interesting. I'm going to play this out. But at more than one occasion, Judge Everett has had to remind Donna Adelson to wear her headphones. It's almost like she's protesting that she doesn't want to listen. What do you think that's about? That she's like forgetting or not putting on those headphones?
I will say in the courtroom, as you know, some of the audio is easier to hear without headphones. I mean, like you can hear it very easily without headphones. But like the Dulce Vita example, you would want to have headphones. So I think maybe some of the things she probably can hear. But I mean, to me, I think I texted Jared at some point during this back and forth. I mean, she looked like she was having an out of body experience. It looked like she almost was just going to vomit. I mean, I think if you have, it doesn't take too many marbles in your head to know that the state has done a masterful job of compiling all of the evidence and telling the jury the story of what you did. And, I just think what would a normal person do if their son-in-law's hitman called them? I mean, I'd be dropping more F-bombs than Katie Magbanua. I'd be so irate and I would be calling the police. But back to the comment about it was all about her. It was all about her aggravation. This was annoying to her. Like, I'm so sorry that this is so annoying to you, but it actually just kind of proves Professor Markel right in a way, because his entire scholarship was about why the criminal justice system needs to punish people who think that they are above other people, because the second you have that, you cannot live in a society where people respect each other and have equal rights under the law and respect the equal rights of other people. And she did not respect his and for all of the reasons that he's outlined in all of his different papers that he's written, she needs to be punished. She thought she was above it. She was more important. Her wants and needs and desires mattered more than his life. And the complications of his murder were annoying to her.
Yeah, and that's like the operative thing there. This has nothing to do with feeling remorse or sadness for Dan Markel. This is all about her worrying about herself and how she's stressed out over this. You see here, Norma says it was 3 times today that the judge told her to put on those headphones. And Rachel D from San Diego telling us why. It's because she is DJ Donna. All right, I'm going to play this out. It's not too short. It's not too long. And then we'll get Jared on the flip side.
That Katie has, and she has, listen to me, let's stop fucking around. Let's stop fucking around. Okay? You know who Katie is. And you know that Katie has somebody that knows stuff. And they took care of a problem for you people. That's just the bottom line. The bottom line is you know who the fuck Katie is.
Look, I
no more than Mr. No, I'm not fucking around with him. You know who Katie is.
Real quick, I got to stop here because I was supposed to have dinner with Mr. Bumpman tonight, and he can't because he's still under subpoena. I just want to say I met his wife, and beautiful, smart, sweet, but this guy is an absolute teddy bear. I mean, he spent his whole career. He's one of very few. They're FBI agents that go undercover, but there are very few that go through the FBI undercover school, and he's one of them. And he speaks different. He speaks Spanish with different accents from different countries. And he told us a story, and I can't remember the specifics, but he literally goes into a life and death situation. And if he is speaking with a Honduran accent, let's say, instead of a Guatemalan accent, his life's over in that particular situation. He's so precise. He's so good. This is such an art form, what he's doing. It seems easy. And maybe it's a little bit easier with Donna, but this guy literally put his life on the line to try to catch bad people. And he's just a great guy. So I can't say that enough. We'll keep watching this and we'll get Jared's take.
Do you know that they took care of Katie and her people? Nobody's taking care of Tato. I know you don't know who Tato is.
No,
But we know who all of you are. And this ain't going away.
you know what?
So I can give you you send the 5K?
Here's what you need to do. You need to go and...
Don't tell me what to do. I know what to do and I'm doing it.
You're looking for money. Get $100,000 or whatever whatever the reward is. It isn't me. You have got the wrong person. That's why I said ask your friends.
You're Donna Adelson.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Well, I know. We know who's involved in all this.
I'm going to hold it there because it is pretty long. But Jared, even when he kind of mispronounces her name, that's done on purpose because he wants to make it seem like he peripherally knows of her because he spent time at Broward County with Luis Rivera. But you can hear, I got to say this, Carm, my beloved mother, my sometime co-host, but she is the co-host emerita of this show. She is the star of STS. Carm would give Mr. Bumpman a ride for his money, but Donna is just crumbling here. I mean, what are your thoughts on this exchange?
She's clearly shaken. I think it was said earlier she's cracking at that moment. Right there in that photo, I think that's that out of body experience that Ashley was talking about, where she realizes I fell for it. I got caught on that call. She does say it wasn't me, it's not me, but she never says I'm innocent. And she tells him to call the police, never says I'm calling the police. If someone called me and they were threatening me and blackmailing me and telling me they wanted money to, go away, the first thing I would do is I would call the police, because if I did nothing wrong, I have nothing to hide. And she doesn't call the police. As we know, the only call she makes is to Charlie Adelson. She doesn't call the police. She calls Charlie Adelson. And that, again, is another action in furtherance of this conspiracy.
And I agree with Betsy about doth protest too much. If you are innocent, why are you protesting so hard? And listen, I've been watching, you guys saw these jurors. I think that they have the common sense and they're figuring all this out. It's probably about another minute or so. I'm going to play it out and then we'll get Betsy and then we'll move on to Wendy Adelson. You may have heard of her. We're going to move on to Wendy and what's up with her, but here we go.
This is not making sense. I mean, if you want the money, you should get it from the police. They can give you a whole lot more than you're asking me for money for someone. I can't do this. I have had too much stress and too much aggravation from this, and I don't know what you are talking about. I just don't know.
Good. I think you should talk to Katie. Talk to your people that are involved in this. You'll know. You know what's going on.
I do not know. That's why I'm.
You can tell me. Adelson, you can tell me all you fucking want, but I know you know. Because I know, because I heard when I was locked up in Broward with my brother, he told me everything. Everything. He told me everything.
Well, then
I just wanted to take care of him because fucking Katie was being taken care of with her fucking puto.
I just think instead of asking me, you should get the money from the police. There's a lot of money out there, and I know if you think you know who this is, then go ahead and do it, because I know it isn't me. I know it isn't me. And I can't take this kind of level of stress. I just can't. I know I didn't do anything.
To talk to people, you talk to the right people, you talk to people, you make this 5K come to me. That's all I need. Just do it and get it to me.
That's the exchange right there. It ends right there. But Betsy, just look at Donna as she is listening to this. What do you think's going on in that between those ears of hers?
Other than very tiny ear canals, I think she's just filled with regret. I mean, she has to be. This has to be a surreal experience for her. To hear herself on the calls like this. I mean, calls she thought were personal being played now at her murder trial. She's probably wondering how she got here. But, in that call, what I heard in that one was, this is somebody who it's dawning on her that she actually didn't get away with murder. For years, she thought she had, and they had kind of put this behind her. She says in some of the calls how unbelievably happy she is. She's taken the kids to tennis lessons, like everything had fallen directly into place, just like she had planned. And now all of a sudden, there's this guy calling her and bringing up the name Katie. And she knew at that point in time that that this wasn't going away and that this was an issue. But again, to Jared's point, why are you so stressed out? If you didn't do anything, if this is completely out of the blue, completely, doesn't involve you at all, then call the police. You're being harassed. You're being, somebody's attempting blackmail on you. But she never did that. And I think that's going to be something the jury really has to think about.
Jared, well said. Here comes your child. She's allowed in. Don't hide her. I have 3 little kids. I like my dog.
I know that baby.
Betsy does know her.
Yeah. Jazzy here. Just wondering, what was the turning point for Jared believing that Wendy was involved? Was it months, years, Jared? What was it? Was it when she
Oof.
defriended you on Facebook? What happened?
No, that came after I came on your show, Joel. So it probably, probably talking through all this with friends. I think I've told this before. I have a friend group from high school, a Facebook chat group. We call ourselves the Jury Duty. And just talking through with them. Several of them thought Wendy was involved right away. Talking with Ashley. I mean, Ashley and I, as she mentioned, we've been talking about this since Danny's memorial, and following this whole thing. And I know Ashley was pretty convinced that Wendy was involved from the very beginning. Obviously, my wife always thought Wendy was involved. So I think it was more so just thinking about things as they went along and realizing there's no way this happened without her at least being okay with it. Which to me, that's, knowing about it and being part of it. The question being, and we've talked about this, and I know you're going to get to it, will that be enough in the end for her to get arrested? And so, I won't say what I think right this second, but I think it was just all the conversations I had. And I will tell you, as much as there are these YouTube channels out here that talk about this trial a lot, you see it on Court TV, you see it on the news, whatever. I will tell you that those of us that knew Danny and Wendy and have any sort of connection or involvement to this case, we talk about it as much as anybody. So it comes up all the time. And so, yes, I think it was just all the conversations I had over the years. Probably about 2 years after Danny's murder, I was like, there's just no way she wasn't involved.
Fascinating. Look at this. Mamu in New Orleans. Donna needs to listen to and read about Carm. I promise that I did not ask her to write this. However, look at this. This is Carm. If you guys don't know, and I do this now just to annoy one person on purpose, but I've written a book, which is my life's work. It's the most important story I've ever told. It is. My mother is a child Holocaust survivor, 4.5 years old. A very real Holocaust survivor who had to go into hiding and helped save her entire. There you go, Jared. Helped save her entire family. And because of that, my mom is, she lost a child along the way. She just lost my father recently, who she says was the toughest thing. But there's so many lessons to be learned in this book from my mother. One of them is that you don't have to write the book to actually sign it. Carm has signed 1 million of these books, and she didn't write a single word. But my mother is my inspiration, and I can guarantee you, this is no rub against you, Mr. Bump Man, but Carm would have given you a way tougher time than Donna Adelson is. Carm is so quick on her feet at 86. It is unbelievable. And she still loves to pick on me. But the book's available anywhere books are sold. It's also on Audible. And Carm voices it in her own lovely, mellifluous voice that raises my heart rate every time I hear it. But Betsy, without further ado, Wendy Adelson, this is the meat and potatoes of this show. Is she still going to be indicted? Are we going to see Wendy get arrested if Don is convicted here?
Well, I think we're closer than we ever have been. And this kind of happened in Charlie Adelson's trial when you saw a lot of the witnesses coming out and they were eliciting testimony pertaining to Donna. And I think we even had a discussion about that amongst ourselves, like, well, they're talking about Donna a lot. But I think what they're doing is they're eliciting all this testimony to support an indictment of Wendy after this is all done. And I was at the trial yesterday, and I think the most heartbreaking part of the day for me was listening to the voicemail that Dan Markel left for Wendy on the morning of the shooting. And you heard his voice. I don't know that I've ever really heard his voice. At least I don't remember. And it was just, he sounded hopeful. He's like, here's what I'm doing. Here's where I'm going to be between 9:15 and 9:30. Here's, he gives her his whole day. She responds to that with a text that proves she heard it because she references the swimming that was in the voicemail. Next call is to Charlie. And what do you know? Then the hitmen turn up at the gym the exact same time he was there, follow him home, and commit the murder. And you have to wonder how they knew. How did they know? Because he gave that information directly to Wendy. Wendy acknowledges she received it. And then the next call is to Charlie. And it was a lengthy call.
18
So I
minutes.
think that was
18
the
minutes.
most damning proof.
Yeah. I mean, Betsy, what the hell was she talking to Charlie about? They claim that they were talking about a TV set. How could you talk about a TV set for 18 minutes?
Well, if
Everything is
anyone's going to
awfully
find a way to
suspicious.
talk about anything for 18 minutes, it's Charlie Adelson, though. So
Yeah,
That's
it
true.
just that really made me think, and I felt so bad for the Markels at that moment. I was sitting about 2 pews behind Phil and Shelley, and that had to be tough. Because I think Dan Markel was in a good place when all of this happened, and the voicemail he left was upbeat, was happy. It was, hey, let's take a walk and talk about a few things, and it's just very sad that that's the day that this all happened.
Yeah, shout out to Abby Cross. And by the way, I always say this: best guest, better community. There's been so many people that have come up to me, I can't even count, and I can't remember her name, which is killing me. But someone actually brought me a loaf of banana bread today, so I am forever grateful for that. And it smells and looks amazing. So I'm excited to dig in. But just the best community, and appreciate everyone coming up. This is what makes being on the road away from the kids worth it. But to you, Ashley, same question. I mean, are we closer? Do you think that we see a Wendy indictment if we get a Donna conviction here?
I hope so. I've thought it's a long time coming. I've always thought she was involved. I also don't understand why, if you are seeing this evidence, you're just going over to hug the person who's supporting the person who's on trial that you're alleged to be in a conspiracy with. I don't understand why Harvey, if he's trying to protect himself, is sitting right behind Donna. I mean, he's just kind of further implicating himself that there was no way that he didn't know. He's sitting behind her, watching all of this evidence come out and still there supporting her. And so he had to know. I mean, there's no other explanation for that behavior. It's just bizarre. So they all knew. And I hope justice is served. I really believe that it will. I think that the state is very committed to that here. And, I think there was a time in Tallahassee where so much investigative work had to be done on this case that there were a lot of people that were very frustrated at the pace of things. A seemingly normal guy in a nice neighborhood was just, murdered in cold blood after going to the gym, steps away from a playground where he took his children. And so people were really frustrated, but I think just seeing the amount of resources and time and blood, sweat, and tears that the state and a number of law enforcement agencies have put into this, hopefully, this kind of goes back to Professor Markel's whole theory of, what an ordered society looks like, right? We're going to reject anyone who thinks that they're above anyone else and thinks that, they have the right to get rid of someone's life, a father's life, a friend's life, because he was an inconvenience to them and because he stressed them out, to use Donna's words. It's just really, terrible. So I think they're next. I think Wendy continues. I didn't know her. I knew who she was, probably would nod to her if I saw her, but would before, not
Okay.
now.
Not
But
now.
I feel like she's almost like trying to be flirty on the stand, like the pursed lips and the eye batting and the stuff. It's just too much. Like I told Jared, I was like, this girl, if she goes to jail, she's going to be like volunteering with the Innocence Project. Like, look at me. Like, I'm just so, damsel in distress, as Georgia put it perfectly. And it's gross.
Yeah. I mean, Jared,
gross.
yeah, I agree with you. And I'm going to get to this question. The biggest idiot award for bringing down the conspiracy, the hitman getting spotted, Wendy telling her boyfriend, crazy Charlie, or Donna. But you know Wendy. I mean, Jared's got the unique perspective. He also went to high school with Charlie, and he knew he was good friends with Danny. But what do you think? And by the way, someone's asking the title of the book. It's easy. It's the same title, the book about my mom, as the podcast Surviving the Survivor. But Jared, to you, What do you think is going on in Wendy's mind now? Is she so full of hubris that she is just like, no one, she's previously said I'm untouchable, essentially, that I'm not going to be arrested. But what do you think's happening? She seemed less arrogant and less antagonistic this time around on the stand. What do you think's happening in her mind?
I think the walls are closing in on her. She cannot be feeling comfortable right now. I think every time she gets on the stand and Georgia asks her about her immunity with the specific question of, this does not mean you can never be charged. Originally, she, like you said, she was very arrogant about it. And she was like, well, the state's not going to charge me. Her answer this time was, yes, that's correct, or whatever, something to that effect. She realizes as she hears what's coming out that they probably have more on her than she ever thought they did. And I've said it. I know Betsy and I have texted about it, and so have Ashley and I, and my friends from high school. She cannot be sleeping well right now, and it showed. Look at her look at her progression, and now I know it's been since the first trial, 6 years. So you're talking about 6 years, and people age over 6 years, but go back and look at her 6 years ago. And then look at her on the stand. She does not look as confident. She does not look comfortable. I almost didn't recognize her when I saw her this time. And I'm not trying to comment on her looks. It's more about just her body language and who she was on the stand this time. She is not the same Wendy that she was 6 years ago when she walked into that courtroom, wearing the same dress 2 trials in a row and making her flirty comments. Like Ashley said, she is not doing well right now. I can almost guarantee it.
Well, and I think it's because, these people have operated under the assumption that they're just smarter than everybody. They obviously think they're better than people, that they can, orchestrate a hit on someone's life. They have this deranged view of themselves. And, I think that they could come in and they thought they were smarter than everybody. They thought they could, they obviously thought they were smarter than anyone who lived in Tallahassee, right? They were going to come in, they were going to spin their lies, and we were just going to believe it because, obviously these people with all these degrees and letters behind their name who were from, a different part of Florida, were going to fool us all. And so I think she's still very much doubling down on denying reality, but she has less ability with which to do that because as more evidence comes out, different lies that she's telling, like just the evolution of the whole, did you or did you not turn down Trescott? Just watch the evolution of that story and you can see that she's having a harder and harder time denying reality, but she's still doing it. It's crazy.
Yeah. I have a kind of a very funny short story. I used to share desk space with Stephen Bogart, who is the son of Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, believe it or not. And he was hilarious. Him and his sister would fight because every day they're getting calls like, we want to license cigarettes in China using the image of Humphrey Bogart who died of lung cancer. And he was like, let's do it. It's $9 million for 2 years, and the sister was like, absolutely not, and they would fight. But every once in a while that phone would ring and I'd pick it up and it was Lauren Bacall when she was still alive. And Stephen Bogart, this was 1995 and I was working at CNBC, and Stephen would make fun of his own mother, saying that she would refer to the fans as the little people. And when I look at Donna, that's what I think of when she thinks of Tallahassee. Like I can picture her saying, I can't believe these little people in Tallahassee are deciding my fate, these jurors. And it's just so thick with irony because now she's in Tallahassee. And I can tell you right now, watching these jurors, I will be personally stunned if there's not a conviction at the end of this, unless something really, really dramatic happens on the stand, if she takes a stand. But right now, I personally cannot see it going any other way. You've got this here. If Wendy's arrested, how's this going to be explained to the boys? And who will break to them? That's part of this tragedy here, Jared. But let me just pivot the question a little bit. From what you've heard so far, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, what little piece of new information that we've learned about, and it was really yesterday that we were getting drips and drabs about new info related to Wendy. But what do you think is, I guess, most poignant in terms of a possible indictment coming?
I mean, there's so many. One of them to me is the whole house thing. Her saying she backed out of buying the house in Tallahassee because she didn't have enough money, which was completely contradicted by the forensic analyst. I believe her last name is Hull.
Mary
she,
Hall, yeah.
Yeah, she completely blew that out of the water when she said she had plenty of money to purchase a house in Tallahassee. So yet again, another lie out of Wendy's mouth that is going to come back to bite her.
Yeah. I mean, Ashley, to you, and because I think Betsy already mentioned, and I'll circle back with Betsy in a second, but is there a piece of information that we've now learned about Wendy where you're thinking, and a lot of people have come up to me, including people very close to the Markels, who said there's not going to be real justice here unless they get Wendy. And Carm has said Harvey, and I'm convinced of this, there's no way Harvey didn't know what was going on. But there's
Agreed.
1,000,000,000% no chance that Wendy didn't know what was going on. But Ashley, is there a piece of evidence or something new that you've heard that particularly stands out to you?
I mean, I've always thought she was involved, so I don't think anything has really surprised me. I think I'm dating a guy, but I'm not telling anyone I'm dating a guy, this whole like weird timeline, and then it's happens to be the same guy she tried to frame. I mean, that's very odd, but I mean, so much of what she has already done is odd. And I think you can appreciate it more if you live here, because so many of the things that she said, if you don't live here, if you kind of don't know how things work or how, the city is constructed, they might be like believable to you. Obviously, she was doubling down on that lie for her parents. But, nothing really surprises me, unfortunately. And that's sad to say.
Abby Crossing, she's helping me out behind the scenes, super smart and understands this case. I wasn't born yet in 95. She says, just kidding. She's probably born in 1994. Someone else saying, which is probably true.
High school in 1995.
I won't tell you when I graduated high school.
Do you know what I did? Do you know what I did say to Jared though? It just made me think of this because I was like, do you think Donna is more upset that she's in prison? Because I almost kind of feel like maybe getting arrested was like a relief to her because she had been under stress for like severe stress for 8+ years.
Yeah.
Like, do you think being in prison and dealing with this is worse for her, or do you think because of the way like her mind works, because we kind of see it, it's like worse for her realizing that her kids who, she kind of took on their identities and that they were her, whole thing, like weren't actually as smart as she thought they were, like her favorite kids.
I mean,
like her whole life.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
truly, I'm like, I think she's like sitting there, she thought Charlie, hung the moon, and Wendy was the most perfect, most special, most beautiful. And honestly, that's kind of the way I see Wendy carrying herself. She has to feel like she's the most special. I just don't like the vibe she gives, but, I never have. But, I think like just her realizing like, holy shit, my kids were kind of dumb. They're not that smart. I mean, like she's like driving out of her way to buy some bullet bourbon, and he's calling, hitmen,
everybody,
and people related to hitmen, and they're going to dinner together, and they're hanging out at the beach and posting pictures on the Facebook. Like, you have to be thinking like, wow.
I mean, her reaction, the simple things like her reaction in the police interview, her calling Don. I mean, by the way, Betsy, let's get to this because, I heard Jackie, I think when she was crossing Wendy going, but didn't you hear your mother's concern when you called her? There was no real concern on that call where it's like you could hear Don on the other end of a cell phone call that Wendy makes. That was a call to let Donna know I'm being interviewed by police now and the job was done. But my question for you, Betsy, is what is the defense here? Is there a defense? And if there is, I really don't know what it is at this point, other than it's anyone but my client.
Yeah, it's been hard to ascertain what the defense theme is. It seems they're shooting down things like lack of personal knowledge. They're pointing out bias. They're scoring a few points here and there, but it's nothing really cohesive. And so we're not going to know until obviously the prosecution has not rested. So then the defense case in chief will start. And I'll be very interested to know what defense they portray. Are they going to go down the road where Charlie did this and, we don't know why he did, but it didn't involve Donna at all? Or are they going to stick to the, we're the Adelsons and we were victimized here? And whichever way that goes is going to depend, it is really going to affect how the jury takes any testimony whatsoever from Donna. I think Donna's best bet, if she's going to testify on her behalf, is she's got to get up there and take some responsibility for something. She's got to say, yes, I was an overbearing mother. Yes, I said horrible, nasty things. Yes, he didn't deserve them. She's going to have to take some responsibility for that. And then the big question that everybody's waiting to know is if she's going to say, look, Charlie did this, but I wasn't involved, or if she's going to double down on this double extortion thing and say, well, this is what he told me was going on, and so I believed him. And I think that is why we went through the calls in such enormous detail today, because the prosecution is getting out in front of that. Just in case they want to bring in this double extortion theory again, the prosecution wants to be able to say, hey, you remember those calls between Charlie and Katie when they were acting like best friends and buying each other gifts and talking like they've were never apart, had nothing absolutely in dispute? That's how ridiculous the double extortion theory is. And I think they want to be able to tell the jury that and wrap that up in a nice bow in the closing, just in case they decide to go with that.
Yeah. By the way, I'm going to speak to John Singer after this. Happens occasionally. This is YouTube. There's absolutely no audio hiccups on our end. And I am going to file a lawsuit against YouTube. If you're listening, YouTube, try to mess with my algorithm. How dare you ruin my show with your audio glitches? Get your you-know-what together. If you guys, I guess, play it on playback, it should be fine. John Singer, where are you when I need you? I want a $873 million settlement, which is like 0.01% of their annual revenue. But Singer, get on it immediately, and I will get other people if we need to do a class action lawsuit. Thank you. Look at this. Lauren Bacall, don't approach her. She's mean. That's what that's according to Wendy. Betsy, back to you, and then we'll get final thoughts. You sent me something interesting. You had a thought as to why they started, the government did, with the emails, the Hitler Youth uniforms in those emails. Explain to our audience and our viewers why you thought they started with emails, and just generally how Georgia and Sarah are doing up to this point.
Yeah, no, I think they started with the emails because the emails established the motive for the jury to understand. Now, remember, this jury doesn't know all the background that we have. So for the jury to understand what the theory of their case is, they have to know and understand the Adelsons. And that means the role that Donna played, the role her daughter played, and the role Charlie played. And I think the emails are so demonstrative of the absolute desperation and just the fury towards Dan Markel. The things she was suggesting with, to your point, the outfits and the converting to Christianity. These are snippets of those emails, but those emails go on for pages and pages, and it's not normal. It's not normal behavior. And that is what they are doing a great job of establishing. And so I think they're doing great. I think there's still a lot to come. We haven't even gotten to Vietnam or the jail informants. Donna, when we thought she was at rock bottom, she grabbed a jackhammer and kept going. So, there's a lot yet to come that I think is going to be very compelling to a jury as well. And then I am just waiting on tenterhooks to see what the defense is going to be.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating. I'm going to circle back to Betsy for one final thought. Jared, he is Jared Ross. He is a lobbyist. He's a father. His son is a future New York Yankee Hall of Famer. His wife is an appellate attorney in a class that Jared will never achieve, but Jared is okay with that. And what else can I say? Jared used to have an afro, and now it's gone to being on his beard and not on the top of his head. But Jared, Your final thoughts here, including if we do see a Wendy arrest, how quickly after a Donna conviction would it come, and your final thoughts?
So my final thoughts are going to be what they normally are, is to make sure that while you're watching all this, and we are in a weird way entertained by all of this, but this is all about the Markels. It's all about making sure that Phil and Shelley and Ruth, they get the justice that they deserve. That Danny, who was so tragically taken from us, but more so from his family, that he is remembered for who he was. And Ashley, I think you did a tremendous job talking about what a brilliant person he was, and what a great professor, and his sense of humor. That is something that bled over not only into his teaching life, but his personal life. If you go through his Facebook page, and every now and then you see his humor. That's what this is all about. It's all about remembering Danny, and it's justice for Dan. Please visit the website, justicefordan.com, follow on social media. It's important. We're doing everything we can to make sure that Danny is remembered for who he was. And Joel, I just appreciate you continuing to get the Markel's message out there, to keep this, in the spotlight. I know that this case has been the one that kind of set you on the path to true crime, and we're glad it did, because you've done a tremendous job elevating this case, but making sure you do it in a good way, and in a way that Phil and Ruth and Shelley are proud of. So with that, I just appreciate every time I get to come on here. I'm honored that I was able to be here for Betsy and Ashley's first time on the show. They are two dear friends of mine. I've known them for quite a long time. In fact, Betsy and I met in law school, so I've known her over 20 years now. And Ashley and I, Ashley actually represented me when I was in my previous job. She was one of my lobbyists, so she does a tremendous job. And like she mentioned, she works with my brother. So obviously, I want the best for her, because that means the best for my brother too. So great job to you two. I was glad to be here with you guys.
Jared, we love having you on, and this panel will definitely come back for this case and others as well. You got Mamu in New Orleans. Thank you for this. I am with the people in the chat, concerned about all the children involved: Dan's sons, Charlie's son, Katie's children, Rob's children. I mean, today you heard Don, and you could hear Ben and Lincoln in the background, and just all these children that are impacted by this just horrific crime, all because Wendy and Donna. And I really, it's my opinion, I think Wendy is probably the one that spearheaded this, at least was the catalyst, but all because they didn't want to be in this city that's awesome, which is Tallahassee. So it's a sickening result, and the ripple effect of these victims seems to never end. And I'm seeing Phil and the Markels here, and they're suffering right now. I mean, it's brutal to go through this. I mean, Phil says to me, it all takes is one juror for this to go the wrong way. And he's right. It just takes one juror. And so it's a super high anxiety level the whole time. But there's always a silver lining. And one of them is I got to meet Betsy and Ashley. Ashley, just your final thoughts here. Do we see a Wendy arrest at the end of this? And does Donna take the stand? Your final thoughts.
I definitely think we see a Wendy arrest. I think we probably see a Harvey arrest. I don't know if Donna takes the stand. But when the trial was starting, I was thinking that she was probably just egotistical still enough to think that she could talk her way out of this. But I think seeing some of her facial expressions in the last day or two have maybe moved me off of that a little bit. I think that just to go back to Professor Markel's research and writing, he devoted all of his scholarship to try to figure out how to make the justice system more fair, and how to make society more fair when they come to people who think they're above others and commit crimes and hurt people. And so I hope that he gets his fairness within the criminal justice system. But I know that he was also a man of deep faith, and probably believes that there's life after this. And so I hope he gets justice in all ways, and not just in the criminal justice system. And so I hope that means that in whatever way it happens. And hopefully this is helpful to that, that, people who may have been instructed to think one way will learn the truth and will come to the truth, and relationships will be repaired and restored, and people will be able to live knowing that truly something just and always was achieved through the truth coming to light.
Yeah, and I can tell you, when I met Ashley and Betsy, like their level of enthusiasm in a great way, in a positive way, about following this case and advocating for Danny Markel is amazing. And Jared obviously has Justice for Dan Markel that he helps to run. And as you said, you could just Google Justice for Dan Markel, and they're doing some cool things over there. So kudos to Jared for doing that. Betsy Burgess, I can tell, is a fierce advocate. I can tell she'd be tough in the courtroom. She has fun, but she is no nonsense. One of the last questions is, are we still going to see? I mean, they flew Charlie out here we got a picture of him traveling out here, so we know he was not on Con Air. He was on a commercial flight. I hope commercial, not on a private jet. But anyway, he was flying out here. Are we going to see him on the stand? And Betsy, just your very final thought, and then we will say goodnight until tomorrow. We're doing gavel to gavel coverage starting again tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning. We'll have a lunch live, and then we'll do a panel show again in the evening. I think John Singer will be back with Joe Pituto and the other great Tim Jansen. But Charlie, and your final thoughts here, Betsy.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll put him on the stand. I'm racking my brain trying to figure out the purpose of that. I think it would be, it'd be confusing. But if they do, I'm going to be there with some popcorn, because I can't wait to see what he's going to say. If he sticks with the double extortion, then I think Donna's on her way to cruising right onto a conviction.
Wow. I mean, that because of his appellate situation, this is my final question. He sort of has to stick to his story and just say my mother didn't know about it, right? He can't really take any other route.
Correct. So, he really can't tell any other story. And is that really what they want to introduce to the jury at this point? I mean, I guess we'll see.
Yeah. And final question. If there's a conviction and Wendy's arrested, how soon after the conviction? It was exactly 1 week for Donna, but she tried to run to Vietnam. How soon would it be for Wendy before handcuffs are clinked onto her wrists?
Well, I think as soon as possible. Just like they did with Donna, they did not waste time. And I think that there's already been a propensity to run. There might be a flight risk. I think it'll be quick.
Well, the only public service I can offer Wendy, which I've done the last 3 shows, is get a canoe or a big rowboat and start paddling as fast as hell to Cuba, because that is your only hope. On that note, love you, America. Love you, Tallahassee. Justice for Dan Markel. We'll see you back live coverage tomorrow morning, live from Tallahassee. Guys, stick around 1 second.